Now we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at Krishna, the divine trickster, in the Mahabharata as a whole and the Bhagavad Gita. And you're going to compare for your post the nature of Krishna in the Mahabharata as a whole and the Gita specifically. So those are two sort of separate, distinct conceptual categories, even though we understand that the Gita is actually part of the Mahabharata. We will talk about, and you will discuss, three sort of aspects of Krishna: a political reformer, a philosopher, and then the popular worship of the personality. Within the Indian epic of the Mahabharata, Krishna is the son of the Yadava chief Vasudeva and his mother Devyaki. So Krishna is essentially a political reformer. He's the key political figure in overthrowing Kansa, the king of the Surasena kingdom. The kingdom of Surasena was the native kingdom of the Yadava clans. It's their home kingdom. By overthrowing Kansa, Krishna re-established the old king, Ugrasena, on the throne and stabilized the kingdom, thus preventing collapse due to factional infighting. In the preparations for the Kurukshetra war, Krishna says, "As we are desirous of adopting a political discourse, this is, no doubt, our first duty. A man acting otherwise would be a great fool, but our relationship to both the Kurus and the Pandus is equal, howsoever these two parties may behave with each other. So, whatever their behavior is, we have obligations to both." Then Krishna offers aid in war to both Arjuna and Duryodhana. There is a large body of cowherds, numbering 10 lakhs, rivaling me in strength and known as the Narayanas, all of whom are able to fight in the thick of battle. These soldiers, irresistible in battle, shall be sent to one of you, and I, Krishna alone, resolved not to fight on the field, and laying down my arms will go with other. You may first select whichever of these two commends itself to you. Yet Krishna also interjects in a peace mission in an attempt to prevent the Kurukshetra war. He says, "I will go to King Dhritarashtra desirous of accomplishing what is consistent with righteousness, which may be beneficial to us, and what also is good for good and good for the Kuru." Yet there is an understanding that Krishna is sort of a politicker within the Yadava chiefs. He says, "I never behave with slavishness. I never behave with slavishness or obsequiousness towards my kinsmen. By flattering speeches about their prosperity, I give them half of what I have, and I forgive their evil speeches. As a fire stick is ground by a person desirous of attaining fire, even so my heart is ground by my kinsmen with their cruel speeches. Indeed, those cruel speeches burn my heart every day." So he has some sort of objections to some of the politics. Yet Krishna also engages in outright conquest of the eastern kingdoms of Pragyotisha and Shonitapura. The epic of the Mahabharata describes many battles fought by Krishna and his conquest of various kingdoms, in fact. He defeated King Naraka of Pragyotisha, the modern-day kingdom of Guwahati in Assam in the state of India, and he's also known to be a sort of son of earth, a Bhumiputra belonging to the Bauma clan of kings. And his kingdom is called Kamarupa in northern Assam. He has the conquest also from Kamarupa outward to Vidarbha, outward to Gandhara, outward to Pandya. Krishna married Rukmini, his first wife, by abducting her on her request from the Vidarbha kingdom, and then defeated her brother Rukmi. He was also won a conquest in the Gandhara kingdom and married Satya, a Gandhara princess, in a similar manner by abducting her from her native kingdom. And then Krishna also attacked and conquered the Pandya kingdom in the south. So he's quite violent, despite the fact that in the Gita we see him as a philosopher. Krishna's philosophical conversation with his friend and cousin Arjuna during the Kurukshetra war later became known as the famous Bhagavad Gita, the holy book of very large numbers of Hindus today. How he amassed this great knowledge is revealed in the Anugita chapters of the Mahabharata, which states that he got his knowledge by interactions with many learned people and by his own meditations. There are several sort of revelations of his philosophical concepts. For example, in chapter 26 of book 6 of the Mahabharata, this is in the Gita, he says, there's no objective existence of anything that is distinct from the Atman, nor non-existence of anything possessing virtues of the Atman. This conclusion in respect of both of these has been arrived at by those that know the Dharma of all things, know that the Atman is to be immortal, by which this universe is pervaded. No one can encompass the destruction, no one can understand the destruction, no one can achieve the destruction of that which is imperishable. It has been said that those bodies of the embodied Atman, which is eternal, indestructible, and infinite, have no end. In another section he says, all beings before birth were unmanifest. Only during an interval between birth and death, O Bharata, are they manifest, and then again, when death comes, they become once more unmanifest. In another section, in this world there are two kinds of devotion, that of the Sankhya's through knowledge and that of the Yoginis through work. The Sankhya's through knowledge and the Yoginis through work. Then we have another sort of section. Arjuna says, thou applaudest, O Krishna, the abandonment of actions and again the applications to them. So tell me definitely, which of those two is superior? Is it the actions or is it the application to them? And then Krishna says, both abandonment of actions and the application to actions lead to emancipation. Both lead to moksha, but of these, application to action is superior to abandonment. An individual should always be known to be an ascetic who has no aversion nor desire. For being free from pairs of opposites, an ascetic is easily released from the bonds of action. So how would you compare Krishna the philosopher to Krishna in the Mahabharata as a whole? One of the representations of Krishna, Krishna Vasudeva, is historically one of the earliest forms of worship of Krishnaism or Krishnaism and Vaishnavism. So representations of the worship of Krishna, that's one sort of school, Krishnaism, and Vaishnavism, the representations of the worship of Vishnu. This tradition is also considered separately to other traditions that led to the amalgamation at a later stage of the historical development that form the basis of the current tradition of the sort of polytheistic interpretations of Hindu religion, as well as a different school which focuses on Krishna as a sort of monotheistic deity as well. Some scholars would equate these sort of amalgams with Bhagavatism. So the idea that there is a Bhagavad Gita but that is a specific religious school within Hinduism, or a specific even religious period, or even religion related to Hinduism. Within Bhagavatism, the founder of this religious tradition is believed to be Krishna himself, who is the son of Vasudeva. Thus, his name is also Vasudeva. Thus you have Krishna Vasudeva as a sort of singular construction, and according to them, his followers call themselves Bhagavatas. And this religion is believed to have formed around the 2nd century before the Common Era in the time of Patanjali. But it's also possible that as early as the 4th century before the Common Era, you have some form of this particular religion. In the latter parts of the Mahabharata that are built on top, in the Harivamsa, you have a solidification of this veneration and worship of Krishna, and this also appears in the Bhagavata Purana, one of the Purana texts.